Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Fantasy 15, the official fantasy football podcast of Sauce on the Side. Guys, in case you guys aren't familiar with this, last year, it was basically Leighton and I would run through each week and give you guys DFS picks, and we would try to come up with a DFS team. We would also do the article, which was the Big Baller Bargains, and we would try to come up with a perfect DFS lineup for you, kind of give you sleepers, give you guys that we're going to break out this week and have a big week, or, you know, kind of just rank players based off of a DFS standpoint. This year we're going to switch things up. It'll run a little longer than Fantasy 15, but we love the name so much that we had to keep it. So this year we're going to also kind of help you with your week-to-week fantasy teams as well as give you DFS. So we're going to do about 15 minutes of both, DFS, and we're going to do about 15 minutes of week-long fantasy leagues or year-long fantasy leagues and try to help you win your leagues. So we're kicking off with a brand new season, week 1 of preseason football. We are going to run through basically a whole entire mock draft of ADPs, and we're going to try to tell you guys how to draft your teams, help you out with that, help you out with always the quarterback early, quarterback late, tell you where we stand, because we've played just about as many fantasy football leagues as anybody. So we'll run through this. If you guys aren't familiar with it, but as you know, I'm your host, Drake, and joined by the producer, the man, Leighton Pip Shaventone.
I really hope you haven't drafted your league yet.
I would have to agree with that. Also, sitting in with the Fantasy 15 for the year will be Lex Glasgow.
Rogers rolls left, avoids Peppers. There's Cobb wide open, Leighton. The rest is history.
Poor Chris Conti. And I was there to witness the whole entire thing.
It was magical.
It was sad. But guys, before we get to any of this talk about fantasy football, Leighton C, you know what to do. Fantasy 15, a Sauce on the Side production. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the most important thing of your fantasy football season. And that, my friends, is round number 1. Guys, what is the most important thing to remember about your first round of drafts?
Well, the most important thing right now is to make sure you're not drafting until the week before week 1. That is the most important thing.
I agree with you 100%.
The most important thing, though, what you need to do, you need to go and get your stud running back or that stud wide receiver that you know is going to be there week to week. You want your workhorse that's going to lead your team.
I agree with you 100%. Round 1 is basically the most important part of your draft. You cannot miss. If you overdraft a guy in round 1, you're going to be making up for it all season.
Don't reach. Don't go up there and reach.
No, reaching in the first round is probably the worst thing possible. So, Lex, you said that you would go out and take your stud running back. I think Leighton and I are in agreement with you. You have to go out there and get the workhorse for a team that is going to basically be the staple of your team for the whole entire season. But there's always that fine line between when to take a wide receiver in the draft and when to kind of come off the run of running backs in the first round. At what point would you maybe dive into that top-tier wide receiver in your draft after running backs have gone?
A lot of this would depend on if you're full-point PPR or half-point PPR. You know, you look at it, you get down, let's say you're drafting at the bottom of the first round. You get there, obviously the top guys like Gurley, Bell, Zeke, and DJ are going to be gone. That's going to depend how the guy in the middle of the round drafts. If Antonio Brown goes, then I think you kind of come back, you either look at DeAndre Hopkins right there at the top, or you go back to one of your other top-tier running backs, like a Kareem Hunt type.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think that, obviously, if you're drafting in the top 4 of your draft, you have to go running back.
Yeah.
I think that Todd Gurley, Lev Bell, Zeke, DJ are basically locks to go 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever order.
They should
pick
be
it.
anyway, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
The guys are going to get 30 touches a game almost. So the guys you want on your team, obviously.
So are you guys safe to say that as far as fantasy goes for this season, your top tier for fantasy players would go in no specific order, but Bell, Zeke, Gurley, and DJ?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then at what running back or wide receivers would you come to, if any, before you dip into that second-class running back?
See, I think Lex said it best. In the first round, you gotta get your top tier running back. And to be honest with you, until it gets to the point where I'm taking like Dalvin Cook over DeAndre Hopkins at pick like 9 or 10 in the draft, I'm taking a running back. I'm not taking Antonio Brown in the top 9 picks. I'm taking a running back because wide receiver is so deep. It has been so deep for so long. And running backs just aren't. Only so many running backs can get you 20 carries a game.
Right. I agree with that to an extent. I feel like this year if you guys don't know, like I am always running back heavy every single draft. But I think that after the top 4 guys go, I think that I'm going to dive into that top tier of wide receiver, and that's going to be, DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., because after that run on running backs goes early, and then you dip into that wide receiver tier, I feel like it falls off a little bit. You then go to like Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette. Those are all kind of, they're still RB1s, but they're not that guy that you can lean on every single week. They're very, very good players, but they're going to have some down weeks. And guys like Odell Beckham Jr., DeAndre Hopkins, and Antonio Brown, they're going to be the staples of their offense week in and week out.
I'd even consider throwing Julio Jones and Michael Thomas into that mix too, They're guys that, number 1 wide receiver. I mean, they're all guys that could be the top wide receiver at the end of the year as well. They could be even the top overall fantasy player at the end of the year as well too. I'd also throw Kareem Hunt up there to the top 2 above some of those guys you just mentioned, like Barkley, Kamara, Gordon, and Fournette. I think he's more likely to run the ball 20 times a game, and he's going to at least get targets out of the backfield.
Right. So, okay, let's just give a scenario here. Say we're pick 10, and, your run on guys has been basically, running backs, wide receivers have kind of been split up, and you're sitting there at pick 10, and you have, say, a DeAndre Hopkins, you have Leonard Fournette, and a Kareem Hunt and Odell Beckham Jr. Where are you guys going to lean there? At that pick 10, are you just going to go ahead and go wide receiver and know that you're going to get the second or third best wide receiver, or are you going to look to maybe get the 8th to 10th best running back?
I like the top 5 wide receivers, Brown, Hopkins, OBJ, Jones, Thomas, more than like the 10th or 11th running back. So I've picked 10. I'm taking any 5 of those 5 guys over a guy like Hunt or Cook or Freeman or McCaffrey.
See, this is the good thing about even if you're not the top pick, you come to pick 10 in your draft, you get 2 guys back to back. You're going to get 2 of those stud horse wide receivers, or you're going to get a good stud wide receiver and a good stud running back that leads your team.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're picking in that 10, 9 or 10 range, I mean, if you get Melvin Gordon and Odell Beckham Jr. at your turnaround there, I think you're going to be completely fine. But as far as those first 2 rounds, looking at the ADPs, are guys like Devontae Freeman and Dalvin Cook, are you okay with taking them in the first 2 rounds and leaning on them basically to lead your team?
Like I said earlier, I take the top 5. Well, maybe the top 6 receivers include Keenan Allen over those guys for the season, just because Cook had the injury concern, and Matt Nagy's gone now, so Kareem Hunt touches might go down. He was not calling plays, Hunt got fewer touches, and they have Shenanick West back, who I think is going to be a factor in the offense to some extent. So, yeah, I'm probably taking those 6 wide receivers over Cook and Hunt. Once past those guys, definitely like them more than McCaffrey and Freeman.
I'm not comfortable at all drafting Dalvin Cook this year.
No,
Coming off an ACL injury, and he plays in a pretty tough division that have some good front sevens. That's not what you want, especially a guy whose whole thing is he's a cutback. He's not going to single cutback and try to run you over. He's going to try to go around you.
Right.
I've got to see that before I draft him high. Maybe next year we can draft him high, but this year don't reach him in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion.
Right. So basically, to put a bow on the first 2 rounds, get your stud wide receiver, get your stud running back, and do not reach.
Yeah, absolutely not. And if you can get 2 stud running backs, I say definitely get 2 stud running backs.
I agree. I think I would go 2 stud running backs over a stud wide receiver and a running
I
back.
agree completely.
Like you can get like Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt or anything like that. I definitely take that.
Unless one of those top 3 wide receivers fall to your lap, just try to get 2 running backs. That's the best advice I can give.
Right. I think I agree with you guys there. So round 3, I feel like the draft completely opens up once round 3 comes around because in the first 2 rounds, you know who's going to be taken. This is the time where guys start reaching for quarterbacks, start reaching for tight ends. You know, Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Rodgers are always hot commodities come around 3. Are you guys okay with going to the tight end position or going to quarterback position in round 3? Or are you guys just going to stick with your guns and kind of go with the running back or wide receiver?
I'm thinking go with the wide receiver. But real quick, I'd like to point out on the ADP, is the second round, in the second round, you have Freeman McCaffrey and beginning of 5th round, you have Jordan Howard going. Then you have Joe Mixon going in the 3rd round, and Jim McKinnon, Sean McCoy. I like Freeman McCaffrey and Howard a hell of a lot more than Mixon, McKinnon, and McCoy this season.
Yes.
And that's why I would make sure I take a back in the 1st round, because how much more I like those guys than McKinnon, McCoy, and Mixon.
See,
I feel like the drop to tier 2 to tier 3 is almost worse than a drop from tier 1 to tier 2.
Oh, I agree 100%.
See, I think if you did what we said and you take 2 running backs there in the first 2 rounds, this is where you go back and you get that next receiver that's on the list up there that you've marked. You know, you can get a Mike Evans type, or even a Keenan. If Keenan Allen falls to you at that point too, you can get a Keenan Allen type too. Maybe even go for Devontae Adams, who's going to be the Rodgers' number 1 target and be a touchdown monster.
Oh, yeah, I agree there. I love your point there, Leighton, is that the tier 2 to tier 3 running back with, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Howard, and Devontae Freeman, the drop is huge because you're looking at Joe Mixon, who basically we're relying on a ton of college tape from a guy who we thought everybody was talking about how he was going to explode last year and completely just fell apart. Did not look good at all. And then you have Jerick McKinnon, who's switching systems, and he's a career 3.9 yard running back. So I really don't know how you can justify going there in the 3rd round. I agree with you. I think that in this kind of draft, if you can get 2 of those 1-2 tier running backs, and then you have a wide receiver in your back pocket there in round 1 or 2, I think you're okay in your draft. I would not take Joe Mixon in the 3rd round. I think the difference between Joe Mixon and a guy who's right behind him and T.Y. Hilton is huge. I think T.Y. Hilton is a solidified number 1 wide receiver where you're looking at, and he has a great quarterback in Andrew Luck, who, you look at the first game of the preseason, he looked healthy, and Joe Mixon, who's always going to have Giovanni Bernard nipping at his heels, taking away touches through the air. That's a big drop-off. Mm-hmm. I think that at this point in round 3, I think you're okay with taking Rob Gronkowski because Rob Gronkowski is a guy who is a fringe wide receiver 1. He's a tight end, but he's a fringe wide receiver 1.
A lot of time in the 3rd round, what I'll do, I'll take best player available, regardless of running back or a receiver, because I'll always have a running back after the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, you take the best available player, obviously, in the 3rd round, I think. We learned last year that the only thing that Joe Mixon hits harder than the hole is his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I already brought that up. Because Joe Mixon, he had a really bad year last year, but he's definitely talented. How talented is he? There's a video of him hitting a girl in the face, and he's still winning the 2nd round of the draft.
That is unbelievable to me.
So, Marvin Lewis definitely believes in this guy. And that is the biggest pro for Joe Mixon no one's talking about, is the fact that Marvin Lewis picked him 2nd round with a video of him hitting in the face out there.
And I feel like if that never happened, people really wouldn't look at Joe Mixon as this big-time stud running back. Like, they would always look at him and be like, oh, looked like he busted after his first year. But since that happened and, they still took him, I think that people just look at him like, oh, he must be unbelievably good for them to overlook such a terrible incident.
Yeah.
Let's also put this into perspective. He got drafted by the Bengals.
Yes, true.
Marvin Lewis has been there for, 17 years and not won a damn playoff game?
Longest tenure coach in the league.
It's just unbelievable with me. So, another guy who's in a pretty touchy situation, LaShawn McCoy. His ADP is actually in the 3rd round. Do you guys think that you could touch him in the 3rd round?
I'm not touching him probably at any point in this draft, because I've said on the Mothership Show a lot that he has just too many touches, and too many touches again this year, and he started to get hurt in the last season.
But I mean, even with all the off the field things with the legal allegations and stuff. I mean,
just add that to it. No, I'm not touching Sean McCoy at all. Just add to it.
See, this is the thing you need to do. You need to, back to what I said at the beginning of the show, don't draft until the week before the league starts. You don't want to draft LeSean McCoy now, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, he's suspended for 8 weeks.
No, I agree. I think that, LeSean McCoy, if he's there in the 5th round, I think I'll take a flyer on him.
I'll take it. If he's there in the 5th round, I'd obviously take
if it gets to that point,
if it gets to that point,
McCoy,
yeah. But I'm not going to reach for him. I'm not going to, basically, this is, you win the draft, you win the league in the 3rd round on, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree with that.
And if you take him and he's gone for 8 weeks, you're left with nothing.
Yeah, I think the 3rd week is kind of, I think the 3rd round is still in that you cannot miss draft here. But like the 1st and 2nd round, the draft's basically laid out for you. Mm-hmm. You know who the top 20 guys are going to be. You know who the studs are going to be. The 3rd round is the most important. And I look at guys like T.Y. Hilton, and really T.Y. Hilton, I think, is going to be the difference in a lot of people's drafts. If you take T.Y. Hilton in the 3rd round, I think you're going to win your league, as long as you do not miss on the 1st and 2nd picks. So guys, round 4, I always like to call it the round, like, get your guy. Mm-hmm. If you have a guy that you're sitting on that is projected to go in rounds 5 or 6, I think this is where you take him. This is where you can start to reach a little bit and take your guy that you're confident in. This is the guy that you've been texting your buddies that aren't in your league, like, hey, I think this guy's going to explode. I think he's going to have a good season. And this is where you go out and get him, because if you don't get him in round 4, there's a good chance they're going to be gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because we look at, at the beginning of round 4, you have Alex Collins going the 3rd pick of round 4, and then you have Rashad Penny going the 4th pick of round 6. Do you think there's that much of a difference in their seasons?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, so like round 4 through 6, or round 4 through probably 7 even, the point total is so close, it's okay to take a guy that you think is a 4th round pick going in the 6th round in other drafts. But be smart about it. Don't take a guy that's going at the beginning of the 7th round in the 4th round, probably get in the 5th round.
Yeah, I agree. I think round 4, if you're sitting there, I know that if you look at Royce Freeman's ADP, but if you're a huge Royce Freeman believer and you think that he's going to be the workhorse in Denver and basically be the staple of that offense, take him in round 4, because you have to get your guy. If you believe in Allen Robinson, his ADP is the 5th round. Don't feel like you're locked in the 4th round. Okay, in the top 3 rounds, yes, you're locked in. You better go off ADPs and take guys where they're projected to score. Round 4, you're flirting with the difference between Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is going in the 4th round, but I could almost guarantee you that Allen Robinson is going to outscore him. So don't feel like you're locked in to take a guy just because, everybody else is taking him. Take your guy in round 4.
Have more than one guy, too. Don't just have one guy you're dead set on, because you never know what people around you are thinking. And if you do get stuck in a spot where you think, oh crap, that's who it was going to take, go to a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who's just a model of consistency. You know what you're going to get from him no matter what.
Yeah, I absolutely love that pick in the 4th round. I did quite a few mocks actually earlier today, and every single time I took Larry Fitzgerald in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald might be my favorite 4th round pick, just for the simple fact that he's 100 catches and 1,000 yards every single year, and in a half-point PPR, that's going to pay off big time. And you look at a guy like Sam Bradford, who he doesn't stretch the ball down the field like everybody may want him to, but that's going to pay huge dividends to Larry Fitzgerald's season, who is basically a 10 yards per catch guy and
never gets hurt.
And the most reliable guy on the field too.
Yes, he might be the most reliable guy on this list.
He might be the most reliable guy in the NFL right now too.
Yes.
He's going to be out there every week, and he's a great blocker.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Watch him block. We should get points for those blocks that he lays every week.
Yeah, he's like Hines Ward, dude. He's going to be on the field every single play. I'm pretty sure that he led all wide receivers in snaps last season. Think about how unbelievable that is for a 33, 34-year-old dude.
That's a ton.
That is unbelievable. So I love the Larry Fitzgerald pick in the 4th round. So we kind of snuck up on the 5th round, kind of talked about guys. So we'll lump them together. The middle rounds, probably 5 through 8, we'll say. What kind of strategy do you guys go with here? I assume that since we didn't really talk about the quarterbacks or the tight ends, we're really not going to draft them in that situation unless Gronk falls in your lap late in the third round. Mm-hmm. So how do you guys usually go through the pecking order of round 5 through 8? Because it sounds like what we do, running back, wide receiver, first 4 rounds. So round 5. The only quarterbacks that have went either in round 5 or before would be Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson. They're in that top tier here as far as ADPs go. Are you guys okay with taking a running back in the 5th round, or do you think that you would wait?
Basically, from round 5 to probably 8 or 9, my strategy is take a running back or wide receiver in each round. Try to keep a good balance, but I did way better one position, taking a position. If I'm loaded, I'm just loaded at the spot.
This is where you kind of need to bulking up your bench a little bit. Make that to where you're running back. Make sure you get a running back in these rounds that's going to be able to play when your main guy goes on a bye week. You want a guy there that's going to be able to get touches for you, no matter what. This is a good round to maybe, if a guy like Rodgers is there, go get him.
If Rodgers is there in 5 and you don't take him, there's a huge problem with your fantasy evaluation.
Also, you look at a guy like Mark Ingram, too. This might be a good round to go out and get him. He's going to be suspended the first 4 games, but he comes back. He's been the bell cow back in that offense. He's got the most touches for running-wise. And Drew Brees trusts him a lot, so does Sean Payton. So you might want to go out and get Mark Ingram.
I absolutely love that point. I think that if you go up and if you get loaded at the running back and wide receiver position in the first 4 rounds, I'm completely okay with going out and getting Mark Ingram, because Mark Ingram finished last season as an RB1. So if you can get an RB1 that's guaranteed after week 4 throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs, that's going to be huge. Having Mark Ingram as your flex play is going to be massive.
And he's coming in after 4 weeks of resting, and he's going to have fresh legs while some guys are starting to tire down a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, I agree. He's going to be hitting 4. He's going to hit week 5, and then he's going to get a bye week at some point. So you're going to look at a Mark Ingram who's fresh throughout the whole entire season.
Yeah, 5th round where I like taking Mark Ingram. Another guy going in the 5th round that previous probably talked about is Josh Gordon.
Yes.
How do you guys feel about Josh Gordon this season? Had not reported to camp yet as of this moment. I'm not touching him right now.
No, I would not touch him until my whole entire starting staff is set, maybe with the exception of tight end and quarterback. Until I have every position locked in, I am not going to go out and get Josh Gordon. I think he's like an 8 to 10 round play.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because you never know with him. He's dynamite. He's going to blow up.
Wait till the first half of the draft is over before you get Josh Gordon. I mean, he's not there at camp, and he's got 2 new quarterbacks in there, so he's not able to develop that relationship with either one of them right now.
Right, I agree 100%. So at this point, unless Rodgers falls to your lap in round 4 or 5, maybe, you really don't want to take that quarterback. Then you look at the next tier of quarterbacks: Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, all going in round 6 and 7. Would you guys be okay with taking those 3 quarterbacks over, say, like a Ronald Jones Jr., Kerryon Johnson, or even an Evan Ingram, who's slotted to go in round 6, 7?
I'm sitting on quarterback until at least round 7. If one of those guys are there in round 7, I'm taking him though.
I think after that first tier's gone, you go to best player available at that point. It depends how your team's shaping up. If your team's shaping up good where you got them studs, go ahead and get you one of them quarterbacks. But best player available down, you can come down, looky here at ADP, we can get Kirk Cousins in the 9th round, Andrew Luck in the 9th round, Jimmy Garoppolo in the 10th round, Matthew Stafford in the 10th round. Wait a little while. Heck, you can, based off ADP, Phillip Rivers going to the 11th round. He might finish as a top 10 QB this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that my play here is I'm going to wait for that quarterback to come to me in round 8, because it's almost impossible with guys are going to be taking Rodgers and Watson, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, that in round 8 you're going to have a lot of quarterbacks to choose from. And actually, even in round 9, Kirk Cousins and Andrew Luck are both slotted to go in round 9, and those are guys who I think are going to finish in top 6 quarterbacks. So I think that you could even wait, maybe go with a Kyle Rudolph in round 7, maybe even if he's there in round 8, or Delaney Walker, take your pick there, get you a good scat back that could possibly blow up this season with, Chris Thompson, who could play the flex, and Tariq Cohen, who are guys that you could put in for your starting running back on their bye week, and they're a little bit of a handcuff too, because they're not going to see the field every single play.
Speaking of handcuffs, I was about to say that depending on who you drafted at running back at this point, if you got a guy that's injury prone, has an injury history, go out, get your handcuff. Don't let him sit on the waiver wire and, oh crap, my top guy's hurt. Now my handcuff's gone.
So are you one of those firm believers in getting your handcuff, or are you going to be taking flyers on guys in the later rounds?
In the later rounds, I want my handcuff.
You want your handcuff?
I want my handcuff. I mean, last year I was in a situation I had Ezekiel Elliott. Okay? He got suspended, week 6? Something like that. And then next thing you know, you don't have your handcuff, you're in trouble.
No, I agree with you. I think you have to get your handcuffs. But, with a handcuff, I don't think I would take a handcuff until the late rounds.
I'm not reaching on a handcuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to reach on a handcuff. I think I'm just going to try to get those guys because, if you look at last season, Adam Thielen was he was a great wide receiver last year, and you could get him in the middle rounds. So I would take flyers on guys who, are young. Basically, my model for this part of the draft right here is wide receivers that are coming off of seasons where they were 800 to 900 yard guys and they were still young in their offense. If you find a guy who is young in his offense and he's looking to take a bigger role, that was 700, 800 yard guy, this is the model for that wide receiver to go here. I think in round 7, 8, 9, this is where I attack those wide receivers because I was a big Thielen believer last year and it paid off because right here is where you take the guys who they talk about taking their next step. I think if you take the next step guys, round 7 through 9, you're in good shape.
And it's a good idea, get a high-scoring offense as wide receiver too, Go out and get that young guy that they just drafted, their wide receiver too, who is going to get yards and score touchdowns.
Yeah, like a Juju Smith-Schuster or a James Washington.
Yeah.
I love James Washington coming into this slot right here.
Yeah.
In the top 10 rounds, he's probably going to go, especially with how he's playing in preseason and all these camp videos coming out. I think he'd be a good guy to take in the 8th, 9th round. 9th round, I think I'm locked into quarterback. I think I'm locked into Kirk Cousins. I think I'm locked into Andrew Luck. Even Jimmy G sitting there. I'm not a huge Jimmy G believer, but, Cam Newton, he's also a viable option. He's probably going to go in round 7 or 8. But I think you could hang your hat on Luck or Kirk Cousins and win your league.
See, yeah, that's where they should go. And if they are there 9th round for me, I'll take them. But I don't reach on any quarterbacks ever. I let them come to me. So if they're gone, I'm not taking Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd rather have Robbie Anderson or Devin Funchess than Garoppolo. Just wait another round and just let quarterback come to me.
I think I actually like that.
But once the last guys like Stafford and Garoppolo, maybe Matt Ryan are gone, that's when I'll find just go grab a quarterback and whatever round that is.
Right. So we'll go to the double-digit rounds. You said that you wouldn't want to reach on a guy like Garoppolo there, maybe sit and wait. I feel like the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Ben Roethlisberger is nothing. I feel like
it's not that huge.
I think that Ben Roethlisberger might actually outscore Jimmy G this season.
It's a possibility if he can get his road splits close to his home splits.
Yeah, oh yeah. Ben Roethlisberger, if you draft him, make sure you have somebody who will play on weeks that he is away.
Yes.
Because the ultimate stat for Ben Roethlisberger is his splits between home and away. If you take Ben Roethlisberger, you better take another quarterback to play in his away game.
If you haven't seen the splits, I'll have them from me. I can't read them to you. Go look those things up. You're going to be amazed when you see the difference.
Yeah. And right here in the double-digit rounds 11 and 12, this is where you start getting that run on defenses. And, if I haven't taken a quarterback up to this point, I may just sit. Take my defense in round 10. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have to be the number 1 defense this season. They were last season. They were even a viable wide receiver play. If you guys think that they're not going to be the number 1 defense, you can change my mind on that.
No, they are. But they're going to the 9th round. Are you touching defense in the 9th round?
I think I would.
You would take a defense in the 9th round?
I think I would. With the Jacksonville Jaguars, very rarely would I go up and take a defense that's this loaded. But I think this team is the team that I would go up and do that for.
See, there's no way.
They might be the only team I go up and do that for. Like, we come down here and we look, ADP, you got the Rams going into the 10th round. They might have a solid defense, but we haven't seen it yet. And we got the Vikings also going at the beginning of the 11th round. I don't like that at all.
No, I don't like that. I think that, a defense like the Rams or the Vikings, I would feel more comfortable taking them in round 12, but they're slotted much higher than that. So you should not reach on any defense that's not the Jaguars. I think if you can get the Jaguars in round 9, you should be very happy with that.
Don't do it.
But you shouldn't take a quarterback. I mean, dude, they were a wide receiver 2 last season. They were a wide receiver 2.
I understand that, but there's so many variables play into that.
Yeah.
So variable. Andrew Luck was hurt last year. Sean Watson got hurt last year. And they were tearing him up.
And it all depends on your draft strategy, though. If you're a guy that believes in defense, go ahead. But I believe that I don't think you should overdraft defense unless you do get, let's say, the Jaguar type.
Yeah.
Okay. I
think the Jaguars have to be your number 1 defense. If you get them in the 10th round, you should look at it as a gift and jump on it. But I don't believe really in the Rams defense. I think they're going to be good. If they fall to me in round like 12, I think I would take them. I think that as far as just talent goes, the Jags, Rams, and Minnesota look the best on paper. But then you run into the Chargers and the Eagles, and Denver even. Are you guys okay with taking those defenses, say round 12, 13?
Those are going to be the kind of defenses that I end up with in fantasy drafts. Around 12, 13, well, I like those defenses more than I would like taking one of the flex options there.
I might take one of them, but do your research week to week, too. If you have to, stream a defense, especially if you draft high on a defense. Oh crap, they have a bad matchup this week. I don't think I should do this. Do your research. I believe streaming defense is probably the better option at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I do like streaming defenses once you run out of the top 3 or 4 options.
Unless the top 3 are there, take one of them. But for me, streaming is the best strategy.
Yeah, and a lot of people I think are going to overlook the Chargers defense just because they're going to say, hey, Jason Verrett's hurt. Mm-hmm. But this team's still loaded. I mean,
they have nasty edge rushers.
Yes, Melvin Gordon. Joey Bosa.
Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, and then you're looking at Derwin James, who is an ultimate game changer, and it could potentially win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Casey Hayward's been an All-Pro the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, this defense is loaded. I think I can't believe it that people are taking the Rams over the Chargers just based off of, what have you gotten, but I'm just going to go off of last year because this team was still a very, very good defense, and the rich just keeps getting richer.
Hey, you think about the team in the division. The Broncos quarterback, Case Keenum. Chiefs, rookie quarterback. And the Raiders, awful last year. John Gruden continues not being in the league. How good are you going to coach?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would.
So that's 6 games where you're facing good matchups with quarterbacks.
I think that if your top defense in the Jaguars is gone, round 12 is there, you have to go Chargers. And you don't have a defense, I would be all aboard the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree with that. But if you look at round 13, pick 2, David Njoku. How happy are you with David Njoku in round 13?
Oh, man, if you get David Njoku in round 13, you are going to be unbelievably happy with the way that Tyrod Taylor hits the tight end.
Yeah.
And then you look at, I think Baker Mayfield's going to start. Baker Mayfield hitting for a touchdown. David Njoku is an athletic specimen who's finally figuring out how to catch a football.
Yeah, he's tied in 12 off the board, which is just insane.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
He's an athletic monster. You just look at him and you can just feel the athleticism just coming off of him.
Yeah. Let's just put a scenario here. Let's say your starting lineup set and you are sitting there in round 12. You already have your defense. You took the Jaguars early. And you're round 12, so it'd be a round earlier than when Njoku's slotted to go. And you have a tight end, say, Jimmy Graham. Would you be comfortable with taking David Njoku in the 12th round?
I would be okay doing that because if you have a guy like Jimmy Graham, and mostly like this now, you have a flex spot. And Jimmy Graham could be a flex position guy if Njoku... The first preseason game, he had 2 touchdowns from both quarterbacks. So if he keeps doing that kind of thing to the regular season, it'd be okay playing 2 tight ends. I'm okay doing that. Even if Njoku's your backup, Karino Graham has injury issues. Yeah, if I have a quarterback and a defense, I'm fine with doing that.
Yeah, I think I agree because you look at Njoku, then the next players are Calvin Ridley, Cameron Meredith, Kenny Stills, all guys who you're not sure of. Calvin Ridley, obviously is not going to be the number one option. He looked mediocre at best at Alabama. Kenny Stills is the ultimate player. Like, every other week he's going to do good, and I'm not going to be sitting there trying to shuffle around and figure out when he's going to explode. And Cam Meredith, new offense. You don't know what he's going to be, especially a year off of injury. So I love the David Njoku pick in round 12, in round 13, wherever you can get him. David Njoku should be one of those guys that you would be okay reaching on.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll get to the last few rounds here. Round 14, 15, 16, actually round 14, 15, we'll just kind of go off here. It seems like there's a lot of talent, but a lot of the talent is either in split workloads for teams, or they're very, very young guys. Where are you going to look to go in the last few rounds here?
I'm looking for the most upside possible. So I'm looking at guys like Kenny Galladay, Geronimo Allison, guys that could become huge players in the team's offense this season.
You know, guys that have pretty low floors, but they've got a high ceiling if they go off that week. A guy that you can just plug and play when you need to. You know, if you're looking at a week where some of my top players on a bye, you know, you're probably not going to win that week. Okay? You plug a guy like that in that just goes off. Like, I think I gave Drake the advice a couple of years ago to take Sammy Coates and play against Layton.
Oh, yeah. If you can take those kind of guys that have the potential to blow up, those should be your guys that you're picking here. A few of the guys that I really like here, you know, if you're in round 14 and you took Dalvin Cook coming off of an injury, you have to be getting Lat Murray. Lat Murray should be your ultimate target towards the end of the draft. Even in round 13, you should be considering taking him. I love Anthony Miller's upside in the 14th round. He's an absolute stud every single day. Anytime I check in on the Bears, he's doing just crazy things. I think I saw him catch a football the other day with 6 other footballs in his hand. So the guy's a stud. He can go up and get the ball. Matt Nagy's offense is all about guys who can go high point the ball, and he's going to get you yards after the catch. He's an absolute stud there. I love Tyler Lockett going in the later rounds. You know, Doug Baldwin, I'm not a huge Doug Baldwin guy, and Tyler Lockett there in Seattle is the ultimate deep ball threat. Whenever I watched him at Kansas State, he reminded me a ton of Antonio Brown. And if he can take any kind of steps towards the Antonio Brown, you know, height and the ceiling that Antonio Brown has, that would be an absolute steal. If you don't remember him from Kansas State, he was just catching absolutely everything, and he's kind of undersized for the wide receiver position, and he can catch a deep ball like nobody else, and he can get separation. I absolutely love taking Tyler Lockett because he's one of those guys that you know he's going to take that next step. He has to. And if he doesn't this year, he probably never will. So I think this is the year to go all in on getting Tyler Lockett in those late rounds.
You know,
so you said just high upside guys.
The high upside. I mean, you look here at round 13, a guy like Matt Breida, who I've read a lot up on the 49ers running back situation. Do we really trust Jerick McKinnon to be a bell cow back?
No,
not at all.
Oh, and another guy in the 49ers backfield, Joe Williams. I really like him. He was from Utah a couple of years ago. He was hurt all last season. In the preseason, though, he was an absolute monster. And I think that he would actually be the guy to step in for Matt Breida.
See, and Jerick McKinnon, he's got to play the Rams twice. He's got to run the gauntlet there a little bit, you know. I don't trust him. You know, you might want to dip into that San Francisco 49er running back situation. Maybe go and get a guy like Giovanni Bernard, too, who, you know, Joe Mixon, this is going to be his first year ever as being the number one guy. We don't know what that's going to go like. So get a guy like Gio. You know, maybe go ahead and, well, for me, maybe get Justin Tucker because he's the greatest kicker in the world.
Yeah, no, Justin Tucker's an absolute manimal at kicking the football. But, you know, the late rounds, I feel like you have to do two things. You have to go out and get that young guy that you could see being a monster with huge upside. And also, this is where you handcuff guys. Any other picks that you guys think that, you know, should be one of those go get your guy and should be on everybody's list to maybe overdraft a round early?
I would like Kenny Galladay. He's 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds. Kind of like a little, like a Babytron, not Megatron, but a little bit smaller.
I really like Mike Williams out there in L.A. You know, he was the 7th overall pick last year. You know, he was hurt all last year. Now this year he's coming off healthy. If you go back and watch his college tape, he made Deshaun Watson for half that season.
Oh yeah.
He was an absolute monster. I mean, he's like, what, 6'5"?
Yeah, if you're not real familiar with him, I'm sure that you watched that Clemson game against Alabama, and he was the guy that they, like, other than the little bitty slot receiver, the little white guy, I can't remember his name.
Renfro.
Yeah, Renfro was catching all the short balls, and anybody who made a spectacular catch, it was Mike Williams. The guy's a monster, and he was just hurt all last season, so we really didn't get much exposure to him. My guy, Kerryon Johnson. I was on his bandwagon a couple weeks ago, and in the preseason, his stats were good. He was, I think, 30 yards receiving, 30 yards rushing on very, very limited time on the field. And he also even broke off for a 50-yard run that got called back from a hold. So I think that if you're looking for that running back who could possibly be that next rookie to be in the top 10, I think Kerryon Johnson is going to be that guy who's going to be flirting with it. I loved him before. I saw him play in the preseason, and he hasn't done anything to change that. Guys, anything else on the draft as a whole?
Don't draft until after week 3 of the preseason, at least. Wait till after the preseason's done if you can.
Go, Pack, go.
And on that note, for Drake, for Lex, and Leighton, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.